Hi, my name is Zachariah George. I'm the co-founder and chief investment officer of startup bootcamp AfriTech, which is one of the largest and most successful global accelerator programs for early stage tech startups. I'm going to spend the next few minutes walking through some of the most important information you'll need to be a mentor for this program. As most of you are aware, we launched our first cohort of Startup Bootcamp Africa last year, where we received 520 applications from 44 countries. And the top 10 that made it into our cohort ended up signing 32 commercial agreements and counting with several leading corporations all across the world. And this year, we received 1,004 applications from 73 countries, and we're looking forward to working with all of you as mentors to a bigger and better and more successful cohort. We start our cohort on the 13th of August, and as you'll see in the following slides, this is a mentor-driven program, and none of this would be possible without you. The purpose of this presentation is to provide you information as to what your exact role is as a Startup Bootcamp mentor and how we can help you make this an incredible experience for yourselves. So a very little bit of background about what Startup Bootcamp is for those of you that do not know much about it, which is unlikely, but just a bit of a refresher. Startup Bootcamp is one of the top 5 global accelerators in the world, alongside the likes of Y Combinator, Techstars, 500 Startups, etc. that you've probably heard about. However, we are the only accelerator globally that runs multiple programs on every single continent on the planet, focused on specific industries, and more importantly, works with multiple corporate partners. The industries that we focus on range from a whole slew of tech-ready and tech-savvy industries, including smart health, insurtech, fintech, e-commerce, smart transportation, fintech, smart cities, connected devices, and several others. We currently have programs in 19 cities across the world, and at last count, the number of alumni in our program sits over 650. One of the things that we are most proud about at Startup Bootcamp is our metrics. We have some of the best metrics in the world when it comes to the success rate of our startup alumni. More than 86% of our alumni across the world, our 650 plus alumni across the world, are active today, which is a staggering statistic given that globally, even for venture capital funded startups, that number is below 10%. And more than 70% of the companies that have gone through our programs have gone on to receive successive rounds of funding, extending to Series A, Series B, and beyond. The reason for that is there is a method and structure to the way we run our programs over the 3 months of acceleration, not just the content, but the mentors that we work with, such as yourselves, the corporate partners across the world that partner with our startups through POCs, proof of concepts that is, pilots and commercial agreements, and the network of investors that work with us to scale the companies that come through our programs. And along the way, thousands of jobs are created, which is a very, very important metric that we focus on, in addition to just the funding and longevity of our startups. So as most of you are aware, in today's dynamic world where innovation has penetrated every single industry known to us, the key principles around killing assumptions, slaying assumptions, and winning fast, the whole idea of failing quickly, failing forward, and failing often, and iterating often, is one of the key metrics that helps startups grow, especially in emerging markets where these concepts have been relatively new, something that we've seen barely in just the last 4 to 5 years, especially in South Africa. So we typically compress the growth cycle of startups from what takes usually 3 to 4 years down to 6 to 9 months. And we fundamentally believe in the concept of an open innovation ecosystem. What that essentially means is that corporates, governments, startups themselves, investors, and talent all work together from a collaborative and non-competitive basis. And that cannot be emphasized more by the fact that we have multiple corporate partners that sit at the table together with us in choosing our top 10 startups every year. And there are no exclusivity clauses in any of the agreements that our startups have with our corporate partners, which is something very unique from an acceleration perspective. So we are a mentor-driven program. We give first without asking anything in return, and I'll get to more about why that facet is so important for a program like this. Mentors play a very, very important role in helping startups to do more faster during our 3 months. And that kicks off this year on the 13th of August. We've got several testimonies from the founders of some of our top startups across the world that talk about the importance of mentorship, about opening doors, bringing years of experience either from a product or service or industry perspective. And a lot of our mentors go on to become personal friends and advisors to a lot of our founders globally. The core value of every Startup Bootcamp program is the connection that our founders have with our mentors who volunteer to work with them. So top programs treat mentors as esteemed members of a very close-knit community, and they make mentors feel valued and important, and vice versa. And one of the things that we say to all our mentors at the start of a program is connecting with founders of startups that want to work with you opens up doors into several roles, including potentially being on their advisory boards, investing in them, having your network of partner organizations commercially work with the startups. The list is endless, and I'll get to more of those in the later slides. Before we go into what mentors specifically need to prepare for this program, just a very rough logistical overview of the different phases in a Startup Bootcamp program. So there are 3 phases in an accelerator program. The first is a validation phase, which is typically from weeks 1 to 4, or the first month, where founders, by working with you as mentors, validate their concept and product, set up meetings with you as mentors and prospective clients, and the initial setup of pilots, proof of concepts with corporate partners gets set up. So the first month is essentially validating your business model. Weeks 4 through 12, which is months 2 and 3, is when you develop and further iterate your business model. You build on an initial MVP, a minimal viable product. Most of the founders of companies that come to us already have MVPs, but the process here is building further on that and launching experiments with our corporate partners that work with them. Weeks 8 through 12, and this is where the overlap happens, is what we call the investor-ready phase, where pilots that were launched in month 2 get executed, metrics are developed together with our corporate partners and our startups, and they then prepare for their demo day, including their financials, their metrics, their route to market strategy, etc. After the program is when we have our fade-out phase. Demo day this year is on November 8th. 3 months after demo day is where we typically see the most success from an investment perspective. Term sheets are signed between prospective VCs, family offices, or angels. And then we have a full-on 12 to 18-month alumni support phase where we help them scale. So, as a starting point, this is what mentors and entrepreneurs expect of each other. And the following slides will talk to you about how, if you want to build an effective relationship with entrepreneurs, you can do so in the most cost-effective and resource-effective manner. So number 1, be transparent at all times. Expect nothing in return. This may sound counterintuitive, but trust me, you will be delighted with what you eventually get back. Although this may sound like a philosophy lesson, be authentic and practice what you preach. Be direct with these founders. Tell them the truth, however hard it may sound. And something that a lot of us, myself definitely as a mentor, do not do that often is just learn to listen. Sometimes, in fact, more often than not, you will learn more about an industry, a sector, a product from founders of tech startups than you can give in advice. The best mentor relationships eventually become two-way. Like I said, you learn more about them and they learn more about what you have to offer. And the best relationships is when both of you think that you've learned more from the other person than what you've given. And we strive for our mentor alumni relationships to reach that level of success. Be responsive. Don't take weeks to reply to an email or a message. Respect the time that the startups have. They are here for just 3 months. They're giving up several other things, 9 to 5 working days back home, friends, family, commitments to be here. So be responsive. Try and adopt at least one company every single year. As a mentor, your experience and track record really counts. When you give advice, clearly separate opinion from fact. If you think something is the case, be very clear about it. Because more often than not, founders of startups will quote you to their peers, to their partners, to their clients, and you wouldn't want to be responsible for a spiraling effect of misinformation. And whatever information is told to you in confidence, please keep it in confidence. This is a global accelerator with a lot of reputation across the world. So we value that information and confidence extremely, extremely high. Commit to being a mentor or don't commit. You can't be half pregnant. So either do it or don't do it. Know what you don't know. If you don't know something when you don't know it, it's okay to say you don't know it. It really is. I'd encourage all of you as mentors to be challenging and robust, but do not be destructive from a criticism perspective. And try and accept and communicate with other mentors that get involved. Many founders will have multiple mentors. We try to keep it down to 3 to 5. So try and speak to other mentors that they work with from a synergy perspective. Be optimistic. Provide specific, actionable advice. Try as much as possible to not be vague. Again, like I said, respect their time as much as they will respect your time. Have empathy. Remember that startups are hard. These founders have chosen to walk that hard, long road because of the immense passion they have for what they do. You don't have to be sympathetic, but show empathy. This one is very, very important to me personally. Guide them, but do not control them. Teams have to make their own decisions. Do not tell them what to do. Remember again and again, and I will repeat this till you get blue in your face. Understand that it is their company, not your company. So what makes a great mentor? So diversity is very, very key in a programmer's mentor pool. So we look for experts that have deep knowledge bases, focused functional backgrounds, experience in multiple geographies, multiple products. So diversity in skills is very important in a global program like this. Try and use case studies. Great mentors typically use personal case studies to convey their deep experience. And if you can give relevant case studies from an industry that is relevant to that particular startup, even better. Listen and ask. Great mentors are thoughtful. They ask questions and let teams make their own decisions. Most investors love 15, 20-minute overview sessions. Mentors do things differently. We believe in mentors diving deep into what a company does. So take time to understand every single aspect of a company before advising them, unlike investors. And you as mentors may become investors. And one of the reasons why mentors make very good investors is they spend a lot more time understanding not just the company, but understanding founders from a personal basis. And more often than not, even myself and my personal experience as an angel investor in 18 African tech startups over the last 7 years, most of the startups that have had the greatest traction and support and success are ones where I know the founders of companies personally and understand what motivates them, what drives them. Because at the end of the day, personal connections have a huge impact on the success of a business. Connect. Startups lack connections, and great mentors offer value-added introductions. Be selfless. And this is a hard part for a lot of mentors. Mentors expect to be paid for their time, for their energy, for their introductions. And I understand why that is the case. But truly great mentors expect nothing in return because they understand that somewhere along their line, someone helped them selflessly, and it's a way of giving back. But like I said, when you develop a close relationship with the startup, they will often come to you and ask you to sit on their board, be an advisor, potentially invest in them, have you partner with them commercially through your contacts. So although these sort of interactions do not happen overnight, there are commercial benefits that could happen later on. But the clear thing here is that the intent is not to benefit commercially from day one. The intent is to give selflessly, and anything that comes out of that is what happens later. Great mentors connect with a few founders on a personal level, like I just mentioned with me myself. Not many do, but great ones for select companies have a personal relationship as well. A handful of initial meetings is helpful, but great mentors make commitments to stay engaged far beyond just a startup bootcamp program. And we've seen that in our last cohort from 2017 too. A quick sort of foray into what kinds of mentors we have in our programs. We have two types. One is an advisory mentor, and the other one is an expert mentor. The reason we have this is because each mentor has different time requirements, which makes it important to be clear about what commitments you can provide. So each and every one of you should decide before the start of this program if you want to be an advisory mentor or an expert mentor. And you can be an advisory mentor to a particular team and an expert mentor to another team. So it isn't a one-size-fits-all for all startups. And I'll get more into what these two roles mean. So advisory mentors work very closely with our startups. So each startup will choose 5 to 8 advisory mentors who will work hands-on with them throughout the program. And these advisory mentors will form the startup's lead mentors during the course of the program. And these are one-to-one relationships. An expert mentor is an ad hoc relationship. So expert mentors work with one or more startups on an ad hoc and often a lighter touch basis. So you support with specific niche advice. If it's an introduction to a particular person or an institution, it's your networks or solving a particular problem, be it a marketing or a tech issue or a business issue. It's more once-off and ad hoc. And that is as important as an advisory mentor, but it's just different. So how do you match and meet these startups? So on the 11th and 12th of July, we have our final selection days at PwC's headquarters, where you would have met the top 20 teams. On the 13th of August, the program officially starts. In late August, there will be a series of 2 or 3 mentor matching events. We call them speed dating events, where you'll get to meet the top 10 finalists. In early September, based on your interactions with them, so your rating of them and their rating of you, we will then, startups will decide your final 3 to 6 lead mentors for the duration of the program. And we will facilitate meetings in person or meetings virtually via Skype or any other platforms like Zoom. If you are interested as a mentor in running a specific workshop on an area of expertise, get in touch with us and we can make that happen. Again, the program runs from the 13th of August to the 8th of November in Cape Town. Some of the criteria we use to select the top 10 startups of 2018, broadly speaking: the team, how experienced are they, what is their passion, who is on their advisory board, what investors are involved in it. Can these founders build a business and not just a product? Do they have experience building things in the past? Number 2, we look at product. How innovative is it? How unique is it? Do you have any traction so far? How do you plan on expanding into new markets? And then obviously market. This is something that is exceptionally important, especially from an African context. How big is a problem that's being addressed and how effective is it? Is it really as lucrative as a founder makes it out to be, or is it a nice to have? And again, lastly, what is your competitive advantage within that market? So keep these three things in mind as you mentor your companies alongside the likes of what we kept in mind during selecting the top 10. The mentor matching process is something that doesn't happen by chance. It's a process that gets fostered over time. Part of it is just serendipity, that allows many startup mentor introductions to be made that may lead to a relationship being formed. And once both sides express an interest, we as the program would take an active step to guide you in how you can engage more deeply. So the initial mentor matching process starts at selection days, where you will meet, or by this point you will have met all your potential mentees. Any mentors that haven't attended these selection days, we'll meet them during the speed dating process within the first 2 weeks of the program. And the startups will be coached, just like we've spent some time coaching you right now, on how they will connect with you for longer sessions. The speed dating process is very similar to a selection day process. We'll have 10 tables with 1 to 2 mentors spending 20 minutes with each startup founder. Again, very similar to the selection days. And at the end of this, startups would have met more than 100 mentors in between final selection days and the mentor speed dating process. Mentor matching speed dating has a lot of pros, which is why we do it, but it does have a few cons as well. But with the pros, startups can maximize the time that they have when they meet mentors, and the matching process happens relatively early in the program, and it is quite light from an admin perspective. However, the few things that you got to keep in mind is startups have to be coached on how they foster the relationship with mentors, and sometimes you could be really overwhelmed with information from multiple mentors, and just processing that can be quite difficult. But this is where we help them consolidate multiple points of view. This slide here just talks about how mentors have had a significant change in the way they coach startups as a result of being a mentor on a startup bootcamp program. So, the meat of this, how does it benefit you to be a mentor at startup bootcamp? Number one, you give back, you're paying it forward, because someone typically may have helped you get off the ground yourselves. Sourcing investments. Often angels and VCs mentor startups to add value to them as businesses, but also they view them as potential investments. So I'd say, in my experience, more than a quarter of mentors end up becoming angel investors themselves, or investing in these companies as part of a fund. It's fun. Mentors often find working with startups is very rewarding and just a breath of fresh air in their normal work lives. Remember, these startups are very innovative and passionate and are at the cutting edge of industries that they work with. So it's a very fun experience getting to know what is at the forefront from a tech perspective of industries that you as a mentor may know a lot about from a business perspective, but may not know much about from a tech perspective. So it's quite fun to see what these startups are up to. Number 4, you test new ideas. A lot of you as mentors may come from corporate establishments and may have ideas that you've tingled with, but haven't been able to test in a corporate setting. Mentoring a prominent tech startup founder gives you the ability to do that. You help the ecosystem. Mentors are often motivated to improve the startup ecosystem and community by virtue of the work that they do. I cannot stress how important networking is. Most mentors will get a lot of benefit by connecting with other mentors. Although it isn't something that is often talked about, often than not, just from last year, it is an extremely important reason to continue mentoring, because you get introduced to other mentors that could complement what you do. And sourcing innovation, last but not least. Mentors look at startups as, like I mentioned before, the cutting edge of innovation, and they want to have a sneak peek into the future. Mentorship has 3 stages: calibration, transferring knowledge, and then the steps after the program. So calibration is essentially a series of facts where you would just figure out from the entrepreneur, the founder, show me your product, tell me what you're doing, What's an ideal customer? Who are your competitors? Why are you building this? What's a problem you're solving? How will your customers' lives be improved? So you've got to get a sense from your startup founders, we call it the calibration phase, to say, how do you as a mentor understand how you can help them? And by asking them these 7 questions, you could be on a much shorter path to helping them. Once you have this information, this critical piece, and once you've taken the time to calibrate, is then transferring knowledge. So tell stories to them instead of giving advice. When I ran this company, I had a very similar problem, and this is how I tackled it. It sucked, and this is how we changed it. So tell them stories. Try and do things with them. Simulate it if you have to. Try and have a conversation with them based on Q&A and back and forth versus just vomiting advice. Like I mentioned earlier, please separate opinion from fact. This could, the experience we've had not just in South Africa but globally on the amount of misinformation that gets perpetuated from a piece of advice given by a mentor that could affect corporate business relationships that the startup has can be quite detrimental. So if you're not sure of something or if it's your opinion, please just tell them that it's your opinion and that it is in fact. Refer startup founders to books or podcasts or blogs or movies that you think would inspire them to be bigger, better, and bolder versions of themselves. And any drawings, sketches, notes, diagrams, and back of the envelope stuff that you took, please leave them behind with the startups. We don't want things being, left around and, copied or plagiarized by anyone else. And the final steps is be proactive. If you say you're going to do an introduction to a contact, a customer, a partner, do it immediately. Like I mentioned earlier, startups do not have much time. They are giving up several personal commitments, families, kids, leaving their home countries in a lot of cases to spend 3 months here. Do your homework on them. Ask for updates. Please commit to delivering. The startups here have a very intense 3-month program with us where they are packed with workshops, seminars, investor presentations, fireside chats. We have a dedicated set of time slots for mentors to meet with startups. Please, as far as possible, commit, be on time, and do what you promised to do. Be impeccable with your word. And sometimes a lot of them just need a kick in the ass. Startups often aren't used to the levels of productivity and efficiency that yourselves as mentors in the corporate space are. So sometimes a jolt helps. But commit to doing what you say you would do. And that's pretty much it, guys and girls. Practical information around here. We've got 6 corporate partners that work with us, and that list is growing every day. If you need any information on how to position your particular mentee better with them, get in touch with us. And Philip and myself are available at any point over the next 3 months and beyond to help you with any of the communication processes you have with the startup. So thank you for listening. And we look forward to welcoming you at final selection days, at the Mentor Master, at the Mentor Madness, the Mentor Matching, and engaging with you during the course of the next 3 months and beyond. So thank you for your time.